Hello and welcome to today's session. I hope you're all doing amazingly well from whichever part of the world you are watching. Today, I continue to take you on my journey of getting my thinking ducks in a row while I research for my second book. And during this journey, I came up with a fantastic, I think I'd call it one of those breakthrough moments. I still have to sharpen the edges and I still have to know how to articulate the breakthrough I've had. But I thought, why not? Let's share it with you. That's a good test of whether I have understood it. I just know I think it's fantastic. I just don't know if I'll be able to transmit that excellence and articulate it in a way that, it shows its excellence. So today's subject is tackles the question better said, is wellness a tool or an instrument? And this subject was born from, this last week while I've been reading, researching, I was participating in a workshop that one of my best friends, Vanessa Fabiano, she's a novelist, fiction writer, is a published author. She's just, amazing. She writes beautifully. And she's always been the strong person who's helped me a lot with my content these last, 15, 16 years. And she's now working on a workshop for creative writers and how AI influences their field now. When I sat through the workshop, I saw that clearly, wellness is not the only one kind of grappling with some issues with AI or, some, controversial issues, I'd say. We clearly know it does have its benefits, but it also does have its challenges. And when it comes to creative writing, fiction writers really frown upon AI. I was quite shocked with that. Of course, it's obvious. I mean, they are creative, but it's there is a resistance towards AI. And I wrote my first book, The Wellness Asset. AI didn't exist. I just had wonderful editors in for the first manuscript. And then the second manuscript actually got published. And this time round, so I published it in 2021, my first book. Now, in the last 2 years, I've been using AI for my content. You're here on LinkedIn, you follow me, you've probably seen that transition, guilty as charged. I have been very clumsy at the use of it sometimes. And then I've also used it in different ways. Then I've stopped using it. So it's been a journey in of itself. And my conclusion is that it is a powerful, powerful tool until I attended Vanessa's workshop. And from all the brilliant golden nuggets of information, what stuck in my brain during the 90 minutes was something she quoted. I have it written down here in my rough notes. She talked about this American designer, Frank Chimero. And he's the author of the book, The Shape of Design. And when he was talking about AI, so the way she was using it, she mentioned that the many schools of thought, and his school of thought is if you use AI as an instrument, you return, or rather, better said, this is my terrible writing, you retain human agency and you develop your creative potential when you use AI as an instrument. And when we use AI as a tool, we're actually outsourcing our creativity and we are replacing our creative writers practice. We're delegating it to AI. Now, as someone who produces massive amounts of content, I can tell you I have used AI both as an instrument and a tool. And you must be wondering, Jesus, Sonal, what does this have to do with wellness? So I thought, just I had this light bulb moment when Vanessa was speaking. I was like, that's it, wellness. We can treat it as a tool or we can treat it as an instrument. Now, getting back to my friend who I really like, clearly I'm going to be reading Frank Chimero's book. That's next in my list right now. And in his book, The Shape of Design, Frank explores a simple idea that the tools we use influence how we think, create, and decide. And design for him isn't just about the output, what you see at the end of it. It's about the relationship between the maker and his or her medium, the tool, whatever they use, the relationship between the intention of the maker and the actual execution of their craft, whatever they're building. And it's also a relationship between human judgment and whatever assistance we're going to make use of with the tool for whatever we are creating. And this is where kind of the distinction between the tool and the instrument plays a part. And what Chimero says is that when we're using, like he's talking clearly about new technologies and particularly AI, so generative tools, we can either replace creative practice, so treat them like a tool, or we can deepen it. And when technology is used as a tool, it automates decisions. It reduces friction and it removes struggle. And all these things, I assure you, us humans, when we like the path of least resistance, the easiest, the laziest path, the least effort, that's the best thing on the planet. However, the downside to that is that it can weaken our creative muscle. And I can tell you there are times where I'm thinking, oh, good God, I have to shut AI, all the different AIs I have subscribed to when I need to write creatively or when I need to work on something. And when we use technology as an instrument, it requires direction. You need to be directing the technology, the tool you're using. It also requires taste. There are many different forms of tools out there. And I've started to see the whole gamut of them. And then I use certain AI tools for certain type of work I do. And it also requires discernment. So which is the best tool for what I'm trying to create? And all these layers where we have to direct, where we have to have that taste, where we have to have some form of discernment, that struggle actually develops us, the people who are creating the craft. And he says a violin does not make music by itself. It amplifies the musician. And AI, in his definition or his kind of framing, should be amplifying thinking, not replacing our thinking. And that's important because here, as I mentioned, when we treat AI as a tool, what we're ultimately doing is we're outsourcing our creativity and we are replacing our creative practice. But when we use it as an instrument, it retains human agency and it develops our creative potential. And this goes beyond the concept of AI as a tool, as an instrument. It's also about agency. And I remember in a talk I was doing in London with Anna Bjerström, the founder of Potato Head for the 50 best hotels of the world awards. And I remember saying, one of the last questions was, what do we see happening going forward in the market? And I said, people want agency, agency over their own well being. Yes, people want to stop doing wellness and they just want to be well. And I take it a step further. People want agency over what tools, instruments also, they're going to use to achieve whatever their well-being goals are. They want that agency. They want to be the ones calling the shots. So basically what Chimero is trying to say is that don't let the medium decide for you. Don't let the tool decide for you. Don't let convenience override any form of your creativity, you being the creator or the author of whatever you are creating or writing. And don't confuse speed with depth of work. And this is something I can definitely speak to. AI can churn a lot out. But if you want to go deep, that is very different. And ultimately, we can't outsource the part that makes us human. It just doesn't make sense. Now, for me, this is that huge breakthrough because in my first book, The Wellness Asset, I talk about how wellness, all the individual elements, is really their toolbox. So wellness is all these individual elements, the gym, in-room wellness, mind-body activities, etc., etc., etc. They're basically the individual elements. They form that toolbox. And their goal is to help us deliver our clients or help our clients, our guests, achieve their well-being goals. So wellness is the toolbox with all the individual elements, and well-being is the goal, the ultimate destination. And when hotel clients ask me, the first thing everyone asks me, what should we add? What am I going to be creating my wellness concept? What should I put in it? And this is where we let the medium decide for us, the tool, what our wellness concept will be. And when we tend to build our wellness offering based on the individual tools, what happens is that any form of trend out there suddenly becomes the authority to follow. And when the entire market is running towards longevity, for example, you delegate that direction to the market. So your trend is that authority. The market becomes the direction you want to head because everyone seems to be running in that direction. And then what we see in the surface of this is where we think the market is heading, this is how things are, we assume that that is our strategy. And if we stop to think about it, it's literally what Chimero is saying. We're using tool logic when it comes to our wellness offerings. If we treated wellness as an instrument and we used instrument logic, then we would be asking, what are we trying to express? What problem are we solving with this wellness offering? What is our taste? What is it that we like with wellness? And what is our philosophy? And that is when we retain human agency. That is when we develop our creative potential when it comes to our wellness offerings. And taking this a step further, Chimero also, so he's talking about the tool and the instrument differentiation and delegating our authority versus retaining our authority. He also mentions the point of agency, retaining our human agency. He also touches upon another key point which fits beautifully with our industry, and that is craft. And craft is not about efficiency. Get something, let's do it quick and ship it out. Craft, on the contrary, is about care. And craft, by its very nature, requires friction. So there is where mastery comes in. If you're going to become the master of anything, it requires that friction to get there. And we use tools precisely to reduce friction. Remember, removing the struggles, making things quicker, automating decisions, just pretty much outsourcing our creative agency, our mind, our decision-making capability. And craft instruments actually require you to have that friction because you have to have that practice. So tools' jobs are to remove friction, to make everything as efficient as possible. That is our old hero model. Whereas instrument requires practice, requires mastery. And that you are deliberately and intentionally looking for friction. And the only way to go deeper instead of saying surface level is to look for that friction. And when you treat wellness as that instrument, you accept the discipline of focus. You're not trend chasing the next bling thing out there. Repetition. You're not going to hit it out of the park the first time round, no matter how amazing you think you are at wellness. It will require fine tuning. And the only way you fine tune something is to iterate, to tweak in the market. And that is why I love so much Eric Ries's minimum viable product. Because in our industry, we go with a lot of arrogance, thinking that just because we know everything, we're the experts, we get it right always. And that's never the case. When we use wellness as an instrument, it also requires alignment. So, whatever instruments you want to use in your symphony, everyone has to be singing off the same hymn sheet, so to speak. And it also requires responsibility, leadership, responsibility. So it's not about treating wellness as a department. Your spa department just upgraded to wellness. It can't have that thinking. And this is where stewardship comes in. So you can't outsource your creative agency when it comes to wellness. I mean, you could treat it as a toolbox, but that just explains why wellness works the way it does. So when we use an instrument, we're using that instrument to express something we believe in, our taste, our discernment, what we want to create. And that requires practice. That requires actively looking for friction. And if we want to use wellness as a tool, something that removes friction, something that just removes any form of struggle, something that just automates decisions so we don't need to think about it. The previous hero model, where the entire wellness offering fell on the shoulders of one person, where we had no seats in the bus, let alone even defined those seats. So this is kind of those moments where I had this breakthrough. How are you using wellness? Are you using it to remove friction? Are you trend chasing? Are you using it to direct you? Or are you adding your taste? Are you the person directing your symphony? Are you choosing the instruments you want to express yourself the way you want to with your wellness offering? So I think it's worth just stopping and thinking, how are we treating our wellness offering? Now, there is no right or wrong. There's no judgment here. You can still use wellness as a tool. That's perfectly okay. And you can also use it as an instrument. I know which one I opt for. You just have to be comfortable and acknowledge how you want to use it. Do you want to outsource any form of creative agency? Or do you want to retain your creative agency and use it to develop what you truly want to develop with your hospitality experience? And just know the path that you will go on for in either destination will look very different. So if you choose the path down the tool road, if you choose the tool path, that's going to look very different and require something very different from you than if you choose wellness as an instrument, where you are going to have to show up, where you are going to have to be uncomfortable, and where you're going to require the patience to master your craft. Because achieving that mastery does not happen overnight, no matter how ninja you are in wellness. So I hope I have managed to convey my little breakthrough moment, my light bulb moment. And I will be working on this more during the next coming weeks. Wishing you all a beautiful day ahead. Take care now.